Hello, and welcome to this discussion on a topic that gets a lot of people talking: inheritance tax. It's often called the UK's most hated tax for a reason. To help us navigate through all the complexities, this discussion has been arranged by the specialist over at Pro Tax Accountant. We're going to dig into the rules, the risks, and crucially, the completely legal ways you can protect your family's future. So let's just kick things off with a pretty tough question. Is it possible that your family, at a really difficult time, could suddenly get hit with a massive 40% tax bill on everything you've worked so hard for? You know, for a growing number of people in the UK, this isn't just a scary thought, it's becoming a very real possibility. All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get to grips with what this 40% squeeze actually is. Then we'll look at some simple gifts and exemptions before moving on to more advanced tools like trusts. And you'll definitely want to stick around for the big tax changes that are just around the corner before we wrap everything up with a simple action plan. Okay, let's dive into part one. What is this 40% squeeze all about, and why does it feel like more and more ordinary families are getting caught in the inheritance tax net every single year? Well, it all starts with this number: £325,000. That's the standard tax-free allowance that every single person gets. But here's the trap. That number hasn't budged since 2009. Property prices have shot up, but this threshold has stayed completely still, pulling thousands more estates into the tax bracket. Now, if you're a homeowner, there is some good news. There's an extra bit of help, another £175,000. This is called the Residence Nil Rate Band. Basically, if you leave your main home to your kids or grandkids, it can boost your personal tax-free total all the way up to £500,000. And here it is, the big one: 40%. That's the massive tax rate that gets charged on every single pound above your tax-free allowance. Now, it's true, not every estate pays it, but for the ones that do, the average bill is a staggering £214,000. That's life-changing money. Okay, so how on earth do you legally shrink that potential bill? Let's get into the practical stuff, some of the simplest, most common, and totally HMRC-approved strategies that you can start thinking about right away. Gifting is, honestly, a fantastic tool. Every tax year, you get these set allowances. There's the £3,000 annual exemption, which you can even carry forward for 1 year. You can also give small gifts of up to £250 to as many people as you want. But the one that people often miss is huge: gifts from your surplus income. If you can prove you're making regular gifts that don't affect your lifestyle, those are totally unlimited and fall outside your estate immediately. Now, what about bigger gifts, the ones that go above your annual allowances? Well, the moment you make that gift, a 7-year clock starts ticking. If you live for a full 7 years after making it, that gift becomes 100% tax-free. If you pass away between years 3 and 7, the tax due gets reduced on a sliding scale. The key takeaway? The earlier you start your planning, the better off you'll be. Beyond gifting, there were 2 really powerful exemptions you need to know about. First, anything you leave to your spouse or civil partner is completely 100% tax-free. They can even inherit any of your unused allowances. And second, there's a really interesting one for charitable giving. If you leave at least 10% of your net estate to charity, the government actually cuts the tax rate on the rest of your estate from 40% down to 36%. Right, so what if you own a business or you have a larger, more complex estate? Well, that's where the planning can get a bit more sophisticated. Let's talk about some advanced tools that can be absolute game changers. For any entrepreneurs or farmers out there, these 2 reliefs are absolutely vital: business property relief and agricultural property relief. Right now, they can allow qualifying assets, like your family business or your farm, to be passed on to the next generation 100% free from inheritance tax. It's how legacies are protected. But, and this is a huge but, you need to be warned. This is changing. From April 2026, a new £1 million cap is coming in. Just look at the impact. Take someone like Raj, a business owner from Manchester. Before this change, his £1.5 million business would pass on with 0 tax. After April 2026, that exact same business suddenly faces a £100,000 tax bill. 2 other really powerful tools are trusts and life insurance. A trust can basically put a protective ring around certain assets, taking them out of your estate completely after 7 years. A life insurance policy, especially when it's placed in a trust, solves a different problem: having the cash on hand. It provides a tax-free payout so your family can pay the IHT bill without having to rush and sell something precious, like the family home. So we've looked at the tools that are available right now, but honestly, the ground is shifting under our feet. There's a whole series of major rule changes coming down the line, and it's creating a real sense of urgency for anyone with an estate to plan. Here's a quick look at the timeline. In 2025, new residency rules kick in that could make long-term UK residents liable for IHT on their assets worldwide. In 2026, as we saw, that cap on business relief starts. And from 2027, there's talk that even unused pensions could be pulled into the IHT net. It feels like every change closes a planning window, which makes acting now so important. Of course, these changes are sparking a lot of debate. This quote from the Adam Smith Institute voices a pretty common concern that changing the rules for so-called non-DOMs could make the UK a less attractive place to invest and might even cause wealthy individuals to leave the country altogether. On the other side of that argument, you have the official government position. The Treasury says these changes are all about creating a tax system that's fairer, more modern, and still competitive. Their argument is that it's about tackling unfairness while continuing to attract investment. So I know that is a lot of information, and it can feel a bit overwhelming. So let's just cut through all the noise and put together a simple, practical action plan for you. All right, here are the key steps to take away. First, figure out what your estate is actually worth, and try to do that every year. Second, keep a careful record of every gift you make, no matter how small. If you have a business or assets overseas, you absolutely need to check how the 2025 and 2026 rule changes will affect you. You could even use HMRC's online calculator to play around with some numbers. And finally, have a serious think about whether tools like trusts or life insurance could help your family. Look, at the end of the day, planning your estate isn't really just about saving tax. It's about making sure that your life's work gets passed on smoothly and that the people you care about most are secure. Trying to navigate these rules, especially with that ticking clock on all the big changes, is definitely complex. For personalized advice that's tailored to your exact situation, the best step you can take is to talk to an expert. The team at ProTax Accountant are ready to help, and you can get in touch with them using the details right there on your screen. Thanks so much for joining us.